Good afternoon, Richland College. How's it going, y'all?
What's up, man?
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Philosophy Club Radio Hour, and you are listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College. We are the voice of Richland College. Views expressed on this show are our own, unless otherwise stated, and do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD. Welcome back, folks. Check this out. New flyer design. Philosophy Club has had the same flyer since I got here back in spring 2016.
How did it look like before?
What'd you say?
How did it look like before?
It was, it was designed by, I think he was the president of the Honor Society, and also president of Philosophy Club first semester. It was like Einstein, had a picture of Einstein on it.
Yeah, it's
you know the philosopher
I think
Einstein.
I think I've seen it. Yeah.
It's been around.
Was he a philosopher?
Not really.
He studied reality. It's all relative.
Yeah.
What a philosopher. Get it? Okay. Relativity. Thank you very much, folks. So this is the new one. It's nice and fun and festive. A little blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it has our links to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you checked our Twitter account today, I just tweeted something, and I got to figure out how to do all this stuff. Usually the students handle social media, but I tweeted that we'll be recording live right now. So maybe people are listening if they otherwise wouldn't have. We got to really, and I got to get some of the officers in here to get down on this social media thing, because there's just so much to it. I want to start making these shows into stories on Instagram, and same with the actual meetings themselves. And shout out University of Texas at Dallas Philosophy Club.
You mean like Instagram Live?
That's Okay, is that what it is?
Okay.
Yeah, Instagram
Live. Okay, yeah.
That's what I want to do. We got we're celebrating over 100 followers on the Instagram account for Philosophy Club, and it's time we give a little bit more back, content-wise. Anyways, that's what I'm thinking. And so look for these flyers everywhere. They'll be hanging all over all your favorite bulletin boards and classrooms that I teach in. And of course, it's a shameless plug here. It's extra credit. If you are taking a philosophy class with any faculty in the philosophy departments and you attend Philosophy Club and other philosophy-related events, it is extra credits. So get at them and get at me. Anywho, today's topic, freedom/free will and determinism. Really, I guess determinism is the key. It's the key term. Is the key determinism. Can't spell determinism without term. Am I right, folks? Let's terminate the podcast. It's been great. So what I like to do, we got a newbie here, and we got a semi-newbie, and then we got an old bee. So
yes, hello. I'm Uche. I'm again the president of the Philosophy Club. I've taken over from Kai.
Yes, there's been a coup for Kai. Cobra Kai?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And so the way we do it usually, it's very free form, as our guests will be discovering if they haven't already. But what we like to do is start with introductions. So why don't you go around, just introduce yourself briefly, say who you are, any affiliations you might have, maybe at clubs on campus or what have you, or just say hello.
All right, I start.
Please go for it.
It's your boy JC coming at you. Heck no. That's gonna be my catchphrase. It's your boy JC.
You should do that. We had somebody who had a similar catchphrase.
Can we edit this? Can we not have this live anymore? We gotta cut that out.
Yeah. Just say it's your boy JC coming at you live. Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
We're live.
We're airing right now live.
On YouTube live?
Yeah,
like YouTube.
on social.
On the radio.
What is it? On the radio. On the web radio. RichlandStudentMedia.com, I believe. Yes.
Okay.
We are live in effect right now. We could have people call in. Should we take a call? The phones are lighting up.
We can't. There's
Do
too
we
many.
have
There's
phones?
too many
I'm not
calls.
sure. Do we have phones that just no one ever calls, or there are no phones?
There are no phones. Although we
Okay.
could accept
we
Skype
don't.
calls. We've done that in the past.
Could tweet back the.
Yes, we can read off the
Right.
live tweeting response to the
We could do that.
the two people on it watching live.
There's nothing we can't do. So who are you in the middle then, doing all that talking? Introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm Uche. I am the president of the Philosophy Club, and I'm here to explain to you that all philosophy is about self-preservation, and man's need to dominate the weak.
Mansies need to dominate the weak, weak-minded. Yeah. So you're the face of MAP. Am I correct?
Yes, I'm the face
I
of
thought you
MAP.
looked familiar.
All right.
And who's our newbie here?
Yeah, not as exciting. My name is Andrew. I'm new to the philosophy club, and this is my first time on the
Eat that mic,
on the
Andrew.
podcast. So that's exciting.
Yeah, welcome. We're happy to have you. Andrew's in my honors ethics class. He's already distinguishing himself as a especially adept student, so I'm excited to have him here in the Philosophy Club Radio Hour. So yeah, typically now what comes next is we'll do what's called a recap, but of course, Andrew, we're Thunder Ducks, so we don't recap, we quack, we re-quack. I get better at selling that every time. So here is the re-quack. Well, Andrew, I think you're the only other person in this room who was at the meeting on Tuesday.
All right.
So I guess welcome aboard and take it away.
I'll do my best here.
Screaming into the
so the topic was we were discussing determinism versus free will.
Okay.
So for all who didn't already catch that earlier, there was a lot of kind of like back and forth, and people weren't moving too much on some things, but we kind of managed to have kind of like a group consensus that at least in part,
here we go.
Even if we can't decide whether the world is determinist or not, because there's it's incredibly complicated. So there's so many variables. We can't figure it out, at least yet, anyway.
Yeah.
And so our best guess would be if the world happened to be determinist, we still have some free will in the environment that we happen to be in. I guess an easy example would be you're driving down the highway and you want to get some food, and the stop that you get off of you can choose between KFC, McDonald's, and Whataburger or something, right? And so it's determined that those are your three choices, but you have free will in that small space. As a simple example, I don't really.
No, I think you did a great job. Yeah. That's probably that might be the best requack we've ever had on the show. Actually. It's ultimately we concluded, we determined that you're free within greater limits. It seems that there is determination going on, that some things are beyond our control and thereby limit our freedom, but within the order, so to speak, the order of things, we can be free in other ways as well. Now, I think, Brayden, this was your idea for a topic. I heard you pushed for it pretty hard at the officers' meeting, but unfortunately you couldn't make it to the club because you have class.
Yeah.
In more ways than one. He's a classy fella. What was it about this topic that you wanted to discuss so badly, or is there any issue or part of it that you want to bring up now?
I'm gonna be honest. I expected everyone to go for determinism and claim we don't have free will. That's
really some people kind of went that way.
That's very much what I'm used to. What I'm used to arguing against.
Right.
But me and Kai, the president of the Philosophy Club, we'd been talking about it last semester.
Right.
Because he wasn't familiar with the idea, so I was explaining it to him, and then I thought not start off the semester, but
early on.
Yeah, early on we should tackle it in the Philosophy Club.
Yeah, it's a major question in philosophy. It's totally appropriate. I think the question of free will in general is maybe best considered in light of the alternative, which is determinism in this case. What do you mean?
Can we define determinism just for the people watching?
Good call.
And free will. I'm pretty sure people can guess what free will is, but determinism at least we should define.
Yeah. Well, Brayden, do you want to take a crack at it, or Andrew?
Well, determinism is the idea that essentially every interaction between every molecule in the universe is going to be determined by the laws of physics based on how they were previously. They're going to naturally follow a predictable path, ultimately, something that could be calculated if you had enough processing ability.
Right. And
they will reach a ultimately predictable end that's been predetermined based on where they started since the creation of the universe. Every moment in the universe, the state the universe is in determines the state it's going to be in next in a predictable manner, and so forth until the end, indefinitely.
Yeah, so basically you could track let's say I smack this table. Like me smacking this table can be tracked back to other things that led to this moment. I think that's what determinism is, kind of.
Yeah, no, I think you guys are hitting it for sure. Yeah, does that sound right to you, Andrew? More or less, based upon what we were talking about.
Well, yeah, but also we ended up talking about that. There's a couple different, I guess, flavors of determinism that you could, delve into. So there was
Chocolate peanut butter.
What were they? Absolute determinism and futile determinism.
Yes.
I'm sure that's the same thing.
Can you define those?
And then there was also loose determinism, but we didn't really.
Compatibilism.
That wasn't too much what the discussion was centered on, but it was brought up that there's multiple types of determinist I guess philosophies and whatnot that you could subscribe to, I guess.
What do you believe in? What's your stance on it?
For practical purposes, I think determinism is useless. And that was my
Damn. Take that.
So if everything is already decided, people, I don't feel like most people would take responsibility for what's going on, because it's like, oh, I did that bad thing. Well, I couldn't help myself. It's my speculation. It's I guess if you wanted to run a study, you could. Not exactly that it would be ethical, telling people that they could basically do whatever they wanted. But if you didn't have the idea of personal responsibility, which I feel like determinism would take away, or at least absolute determinism would take away from people, then you'd sort of descend into this moral chaos, just a terrible existence in which everyone would basically just be following animalistic instincts for immediate pleasure.
So basically determinism kind of takes away like people's accountability. That's what you're saying.
That's actually one of the bigger issues. Critics of one of the bigger conventional issues critics have brought up with determinism is it leads to not immorality necessarily, but sort of an amorality. The idea that no matter what you do, it wasn't really your fault. If you do something good, it was predetermined. If you do something bad, it was predetermined. You can't control it either way. What's going to happen is going to happen, and there's no real sense in punishing people for their actions because they never could take any other action.
Yeah, so it becomes, choice is almost illusory. It's your life, in a sense, is the byproduct of all these things that you have no control over. Forces that are pushing you along, both, physical, geophysical even, whatever the case may be, the laws that pertain to the material reality are such that you're only free in a way that isn't verifiable, I suppose, because upon greater scrutiny, what seems like a choice to you was in fact never a choice. And again, what we didn't actually, and that reminds me of something else, what we didn't go into is divine foreknowledge versus human free will. We didn't really get into the whole, if God knows everything, then how can you really be free if he already knows what you're going to do? If what you're going to do has already been done, how is it really a choice? Which is something else we could consider here. Or we can continue going down this path, which is, again, this idea of, you yourself are the result of all these physical, biophysical, biochemical processes that you really have no say. It's not like you can choose to make your heart stop beating or choose to continue to let it beat. Like your life force, to a very large extent, is outside of your control. It's not as though you chose to be the kind of person, the kind of thing that needs a heartbeat to survive either. Like that's beyond your control. I think the example I used was, here's how I know I'm not completely free. I can't just fly around the room like Peter Pan. I'm not free to do that. So, my freedom has been restricted in that sense. That possibility has been predetermined as an impossibility. So I think if I recall correctly, a lot of the conversation was kind of on fleshing that out, what that entails, because a hard-line determinism, and I think this is going back to your point, Andrew, it makes it difficult to prove that you're autonomous. It makes it difficult to show that you have autonomy if you're ultimately just a result of all these things. And that, in turn, can have a very deleterious effect on your quality of life, maybe. It's important that we feel free, and it's important that maybe we don't feel so determined. But it's also important that we're honest, and we're truthful about those things that are determined by us. Oh, no, she's just the worst. Is she really going to come in here?
Yeah.
We should say something. Jack, lock the door. She's trying to get in. Watch this.
Oh.
Isn't there the other side?
Yeah, there's
There's 2 doors.
there's 3 more mics.
Why are there so many doors?
Don't ask me.
There are all these possibilities. It's like you can't determine which one you're gonna pick each time.
Yeah. So,
Hi.
and we should say right now, there's a huge fair going on outside. Welcome, Haya. There's a huge fair going on outside. Student Services Fair, I want to say.
Yeah, it's a volunteer opportunity. I signed up for helping with horses.
Oh, no kidding.
Helping horses.
No, actually, it's like a
Helping
program
with
to
horses.
help handicapped people with, and get therapy with horses and stuff like that.
Wow.
Equine
Interesting.
therapy.
Yeah, equine therapy.
Hippotherapy, I think that's it.
Hippotherapy?
Mhm.
When they use a hippopotamus?
I thought you were helping
No,
horses.
Hippotherapy is completely different.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, aren't you hip to the therapy?
The therapy of horses.
Completely
Oh,
ignored.
God.
Yeah.
I think this episode could use some therapy.
Future philosophy club discussion. What qualifies as therapy?
That's fair. That's
Should
fair.
we just keep it survival of the fittest?
I don't know. I had some ice cream yesterday. That was pretty good therapy.
That was therapeutic.
I mean,
Yeah. It's eating tubs of ice cream. Would you call that therapeutic?
perhaps.
I think it's
We are talking about
that's a good
determinism
topic.
today, though.
Alright.
Aya.
Okay, fine.
could
We
talk about
were.
that.
You came in. We're not.
Yeah, the
We
mood
should get
changes
back,
when I
probably.
come in. Sure.
Yeah, no. So Haya, and we're kind of getting into we're doing the requack. So Haya, tell me about the conversation you were having with Braden prior to the philosophy club. Like what was because what I heard from Kai is that y'all were
Well, the
we're debating
conversation
it.
that we were having is that we shouldn't talk about determinism. We should talk about something political, and my ideas are bad.
No.
Yes.
No.
hey, they're having that conversation when you weren't around
I
too.
like it.
I'm joking.
No. It was. I actually cannot recall what we were talking about, but we went into personal determinism and societal determinism, right? That's what we were talking about, right? Do you recall? What we were
I don't remember talking to you about that, actually. No,
No.
I think you might have talked about that in the meeting.
No, but I don't remember.
Communication's breaking down here in the philosophy club among the student officers.
Hi, you ruined it.
I'm sorry. Can we just continue what we were
Let's
talking
go
about
back.
before I came in?
Let's go back to it.
Nobody seems to remember what.
This might be the most awkward moment in the history of this radio.
No, you're making this awkward. Okay, let me just explain. Let me just talk about what
I
I
often do.
remember from the conversation. So at first, I gave the example that I gave during the philosophy club meeting about the programmer and the code and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then it came into talking about the society's influence upon us that determines what we do next. So if society has given you a negative influence, your tendency to do negative things is highly likely. And then we went into personal determinism would be, it's not very far off from societal determinism because that really affects what you do. But personal determinism would be like a self-fulfilling prophecy, where you
That's right. We talked
you
about
where
that.
you set yourself or others set upon you these type of things that you think you will do. Like you're just gonna be an awful mother, right? And you just end up no, Braden, no. It's
You don't have to
I
take
am,
that, Braden.
I am going to be an awful mother.
yeah. So it just ends up that that thought just constantly goes around your head, like replays again and again until you start believing that you're a terrible mother, and you just fulfill that prophecy. It's like all your choices and all your decisions were already decided because of that one phrase. That is what I think as personal determinism.
Interesting. Have we ever experienced that before? Have you ever told yourself over and over again, this isn't going to go well for me. This isn't going to go well for me. This isn't going to go well for me. And
Yeah.
then, you decide to become president of SGA. And then you decide to try to go, and it just doesn't go well.
Yeah. Or like when you have like an exam coming up or like tryouts or auditions and you constantly think you're going to do terribly and like how your parents or a coach or something like don't think like that. Don't think negatively because that's what's going to happen.
I was going to say there's a guy in my Cal 1 class a while ago who we'd have these weekly quizzes and like half an hour before the quiz we'd be studying and then he'd be like, "Well, I'm going to fail this quiz." And he'd stop studying. He'd give up already before he even got to the quiz.
Yeah. How was Uche?
It's way more fun to do it the other way around, where like you hype yourself up. You're like, this is gonna be so great, so that way at least like
Eat that
you don't
mic.
feel as bad about yourself when you go in and fail the quiz. Oh, am I not?
Yeah, there we go. Just so
I
it picks you
can't.
up better.
The chair leans back whenever I lean in it, and so I have to just like try to sit up as straight as possible the whole time, and I can't. Get
I
it
know-
Do
to
you want us
lock.
to
I know
seats?
exactly
'Cause
what you
this
mean.
has like a stronger back. And
That's
that's just
fine.
straight.
Hey, we got these cool cameras now. Let's try to get cool chairs now.
Yeah.
Jack, we put that in the budget.
Did you guys not have cameras before?
Can we not just, like,
We
bring
did,
in,
but there
a
was like this
couch or
tiny little
something comfortable?
camera.
Like this
It's like something you can hold that you saw from like 1997. But nonetheless, now we got the good stuff. Yeah, so thank you for breaking down those variations of determinism. Yeah, it's jogging my memory now. We did talk about that idea of self-fulfilling prophecy, and something else down that road would be this idea like, well, you know, I was born short, so I guess I can't play basketball. It's predetermined. You know what I mean?
That really is predetermined.
Something
yeah,
like
it
that.
really is. That's a
No,
deciding
Muggsy
factor.
There's a
Bogues?
couple guys under 6 feet.
Muggsy
who-
Bogues was like
Yeah.
But
5'2".
there's not
But that
people who
moves,
are.
that's not necessarily against free will. Like the whole basketball thing, like you're short, so you can't play basketball. It's not necessarily.
Exactly.
It's just about
will.
disadvantage and advantage.
But if you were to tell yourself that,
That's just you being unlucky at that point.
well, no. The point being is this: yeah, you could, but you're making an excuse for not pursuing something that maybe you do care about. Or another thing might be like, you know, well, I was born Sicilian, so yep, I'm gonna have a temper. Deal with it. You know what I mean? It's like that idea of I
And he
can't help
does.
it. It's determined.
Or like
I will not be
all
deterred.
Indians smell of spices. It's not untrue though.
That's only if you like live in a place with lots of spices.
Hey, what's up, Julio? Look at this guy. Look at this OG philosophy clubber.
Julio didn't know that it was 1 to 2. So
Hey, what's up, man?
No.
Oh, good. We'll grab a seat. Julio Salvador's in the house. He was a officer last semester, and he's still hanging out and doing his thing, helping us out this semester. Yeah. So from everything, you know, we'll just say from everything we discussed on Tuesday, and you know, or as well as considerations we've done so far. Does anybody here feel comfortable calling himself or herself a determinist?
Yeah,
You feel comfortable calling yourself determinist? Okay.
but it
well,
really does feel like we have free will, though.
yeah, right.
Like,
There's
it
there's
really
like
does.
a parallel between them
it
both.
feels like it.
It-
You know what comes to mind is Friedrich Nietzsche. You know, Nietzsche says cause and effect are myths. There's no such thing as cause and effect. He says because really, when you say cause and effect, you're picking out two arbitrary points. You're saying, oh, point A. Give it a second. Point A is the cause, and point B is the effect, and you can trace that line between the two. But Nietzsche's really saying, no, if you expand the scope even bigger, you'll see that point A was already the effect of something else. And really, A and B are just one little thing with something bigger. And the more you pull it back, the more you realize, oh, cause and effect, it's kind of just our interpretation we're imposing on the natural world, when really there's all kinds of causes and all kinds of effects, and they're everywhere, and they're happening all the time. And, you know, that leads into a possible question about determinism, where there are so many underlying forces at play at any given moment that even when you feel free, your choice, your freedom is just a result of something that is beyond you, maybe even beyond your ability to comprehend. Hey, there he is. What's up, pal?
Hey, your president says hi. He loves you all, but he has to study for anatomy and physiology.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Kai.
Mr.
Good luck on
President.
anatomy physiology.
You're welcome. Was that? Who was that? Who said that?
Mr. President?
Was that Joel? Thank you.
That was JC.
All right. Peace out.
Good luck, y'all.
What is the topic?
Determinism, freedom, free will.
Freedom?
Yeah.
I believe that
She believes what?
cliffhanger.
She believes.
She believes in
That
something.
was abusive.
I mean, it could be something
Okay.
bad.
Um,
No.
yes,
She
that's
believes.
shout out to Kai and Sabrina,
The first lady.
the first lady of the
Who
philosophy club.
believes in our Lord of Darkness.
Okay,
Oh,
so
Lord and
um,
Savior.
I kind of want to hear everyone else's stance
Yeah,
on this.
see.
So
Well-
we already heard his. He believes determinism really isn't practical today. Like it takes away accountability from
Yeah, but
almost everybody.
but
That's
JC,
But do you-
why do you hold your position though?
I was-
Like
My
you did-
position?
Yeah, like what about determinism seems so persuasive?
I mean, how do I explain it? I mean, because it's true. Like everything you do is a result from something else. You know what I mean? And in your brain also, like, there's many other factors to determinism. There's neurological factors. There's physical factors. There's emotional factors. Like everything affects what you do. So
Okay, no, I think
mainly
that's, yeah.
the way I think about it is neurologically. Like you're a bunch of like in your brain there's a bunch of neurotransmitters
Okay.
firing out, and it's all biological. And like I saw it on the crash course, the guy was like, since it's biological, it ends up it's physical, and then I forgot. I think it goes back to it's part of. I don't remember it that well, but
It's governed by the laws of physics, which
Yeah.
ultimately are predictable, unless you subscribe to the idea that quantum physics is inherently unpredictable. It's generally assumed for people who believe in determinism that quantum physics is ultimately predictable. We're just incapable of predicting it. Because if it could really lead to
It's fascinating.
if it could really lead to two possible different outcomes from the same cause could lead to two possible different outcomes randomly, then that would disprove determinism.
Yes, indeed.
However, in everything else aside from quantum physics, what we found to be true is that a single cause always has a single effect. You don't drop a rock and have it randomly fall to the right or to the left. It's always going to behave predictably based
Yeah.
on whatever
Its shape, its X and Y
I
and Z.
think
and
determinism.
maybe if it's a piece of paper, then the shape it might drift one way,
Yeah.
but you could ultimately predict this. It would seem random to you if you don't know much about physics, but you can ultimately predict this based on the air currents in the room and the angle the paper was dropped at.
Yes, and people try to project determinism in other arenas as well. So something like, again, the social sciences. Again, pick psychology. I think I use this as an example as well, where psychoanalysis, at least traditionally, says if you're exposed to certain things at a young age, you're going to become a certain person. That's just how it is, and it's going to affect you in a certain way, and your behavior will be predictable based upon the things that happen to you, prior to your coming to full rationalization. Again, that's a really kind of broad overview. There are a lot of contours in there, but that's kind of generally the thrust.
I feel
please.
like determinism is less you being able to predict a certain action and more like you being able to trace the cause of an action. So, so you said
I think that's true.
I think I'm going to misquote you, but like you said that like if you believe that like a cause will have random effects that like it basically like sort of invalidates what's it called? Damn, I can't speak right now.
That's been going around today, man. I've been having that problem all day. I woke up this morning like you ever feel that way sometimes? Like you're just like, I'm not articulate today.
That's me every day.
Good thing I'm on the radio today. Yeah, I totally feel that. So let's keep going around then. And we kind of heard from Braden. Andrew, do you consider yourself a determinist? Pigeonhole yourself.
I would say, I already sort of talked about my position earlier in that I don't find determinism useful. However, there are some realms in which it's reasonable to say that things are determined. Things like physics and whatnot.
Right.
It's fairly obvious that things are determined. However, to some extent, so I would say to the extent that determinism applies to everything, or that absolute determinism applies to everything, I would say that that's not something I'd believe in.
Okay, yeah, you don't subscribe to it because again, things could be useful or not useful, but it doesn't matter relative to their so their status. I mean, death isn't useful, but it's a fact.
Yeah.
So determinism might not be useful, but I think some people argue determinism could be very useful. That's how we can predict how a bacteria might respond in somebody's body or something along these lines. If you can predict your own behavior, psychologically speaking, then you know what you have to do to be able to change it.
Is that really determinism?
Well, no. We know that those things can be determined, but determinism would be more the idea that we could essentially, if we somehow had a computer strong enough, which should be impossible logically, but that we could calculate everything in the universe, the fate of the entire universe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's somewhat paradoxical because you'd have to assume that the computer could also simulate itself and calculate all of its own actions, which
it would have to simulate the entire universe and then predict the most
it would have
possible
to be able.
outcome.
It would have to be powerful enough to simulate a system bigger than itself, right?
Then that's infinitely
would have
impossible.
to exceed. Yeah, it would have to be bigger on the inside.
It'd have to be infinite.
That would lead to a paradox where there's infinite processing power of the computer. It could simulate a stronger computer, which could simulate a stronger computer.
I've heard of something like this. It's like
quite nonsensical.
Yeah, it's like if we try to think up of an infinite value, right? It would be it's so impossible for us that our brain would collapse into a black hole.
Yeah.
With the energy
Well,
it would produce.
With the energy that it would take to process that.
Yeah. But can I put my thoughts forward?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, please, Haya, go for it. That's what this is your show, Haya. This is your podcast.
Oh wow, thank you. I feel so honored. I don't
That
really.
sounded sarcastic.
I
She's
don't
got
really.
the SGA. She doesn't need this.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't. We have our own radio show, by the way.
You
Do you really?
Yeah.
Is it the Haya Hour?
I'd love to be a
No.
guest. Thanks for the
Haya.
invite.
I'm not the host, but one of our officers are.
Who's the host?
The Speaker of the House, Michaela Logan. It's like a 15-minute program to talk about the event and stuff. But that's
I'm
not
gonna crash that program.
Sure.
See, 15 minutes. Ours is an hour. So
Yeah.
Whatever. It's like a news report.
Monday at noon. Oh, dude, I will come right over.
Do they do the War of the Worlds thing where they tell us we're all going to die?
I wish. That was so scary when I watched it. Anyways, so I don't really believe in the dichotomy of determinism and free will
Okay, good.
because I feel like determinism is logically possible. Actually, it is something that is logical, right?
You mean
makes sense.
theoretically?
Yeah,
Mhm.
theoretically.
Okay.
Oh no, Mason's giving us that you started without me look. But free will,
Freemason.
yeah. The reason I feel like it's so confusing is that
Oh, come on, you
we
guys.
make our decisions ourselves, while our society or our previous decisions rule out what choice we make. The choice is still ours, and there's that idea of consciousness that comes into play, that makes up for the free will, and that's why I think about free will and determinism. And there's something I also want to mention before we move on is that I was talking to I remember now I was talking to Kai before the club meeting, and the reason he didn't really want this particular topic because he was let's say anxious about it because in some religions they have the idea that human beings are born evil, right? That predisposition, like Adam and Eve did evil, or not just humans, maybe even women are just born evil. That deterministic behavior.
could I step in? For a
What? I'm
second
sorry,
on
you're
this
saying,
one?
yeah, that was good stuff.
So in the Christian faith, the whole idea, it's not that you're born evil, it's that you're born with the capacity for evil.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know
so
about that,
it's-
actually.
It's not that
I
you're
think
inherently
I know,
It's not that
evil,
you're born
it's-
wholly evil.
yeah.
I know.
But you're
It's that you
born-
have
Holy
capacity
evil?
for
What do you
You're
mean?
born with some evil. You're not evil as a whole.
I'm not
on the
saying
whole.
I'm
Oh,
not saying that
But
it's
you're
like
born
that.
with
But I know
sin.
that there's
Yeah.
some not just in Christianity, but there's some sects in Islam that believe that human beings are evil by nature, and that no matter what we do, that we'd always end up choosing the evil choice, and we have to be really religious, and we have to be really strict and conservative to be able to make up for all our wrongdoings on earth. And then it really comes up to the fact that when you have people who do bad stuff and go like, no, well, this is just because of my disposition, this is determined for me
Right.
by a divine source. And
Interesting.
that's what Kai was afraid of, because that idea, that belief or determinism is very dangerous, very, very dangerous. That's where the religious
I
crazy
agree.
people
Yeah.
come into. They're the extremists come into because of that deterministic behavior. And that's why I believe determinism is dangerous in some cases, useless in some cases, and yeah, it's useless in some cases because at the end of the day, it's our choice.
Well,
You heard it here first. Religious people are crazy. Hiya, SGA government.
That's interesting because I always
I was
thought
going to say cyanide isn't necessarily useful either, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. That doesn't mean
Yeah,
it's
I'm
not
not
the
saying
truth.
I'm not saying it,
Yes.
determinism is is wrong or it's illogical or it's not possible. It's possible, but in most cases where normal human beings, knowing the fact that what the choice I make is already being decided doesn't really change anything, except when I'm crazy and I do something bad and go like, hey, well, I was destined to do this anyways, so
All right, I gotta skip out, but my last little thing is
Yeah.
gonna be, I would say that like determinism would have its uses practically, so would religion, and it's not all necessarily good or evil.
yeah.
So
well put.
Thank you. Well put.
Yeah, thanks for
being
coming,
said-
Andrew. I hope you return. It's great having you.
Hi.
He's non-committal. Okay. Thanks for coming, man.
I do think that it depends if you value the truth for itself, essentially, if you think people have a right to the truth. Because if you believe determinism to be true, then the question is, the question that arises there is, should we misguide people, essentially, because the knowledge of the truth might lead to them doing something that is bad or immoral. And it seems immoral in itself to misguide people, to deny determinism simply because you don't like the repercussions.
Yeah, but isn't that just basically most religion? I'm not trashing on religion by itself, but the idea is that you have this destiny written by God, and everything you do is already being determined, right? Whether you do good or bad, whether you're a wonderful person, whether you die, is determined by God. So, my real question is that you have people who try to be good because they think their destiny is to be good or to be bad or whatever, and their destiny is to go to heaven. Then you have those bad people who go like, hey, my destiny, all of these bad stuff are happening to me, or I've done something bad. Maybe this is my destiny. Maybe this is what God wrote down for me, and I will do it. Because there's two aspects to determinism. It's that logical aspect that all of our choices and our decisions are overruled by a natural law, right? Natural laws. And then you have that idea that determinism is overruled by a divine source.
Wait, hold up. I always thought that with religion, I thought people that had religion, I thought they believed in free will. I thought, in Christianity, God gave you free will and a sense of morality and ethics.
But that's the contrast, isn't it? It's that idea that God sent us to Earth, and we have the choice to be good or evil, but whatever you do, God's already decided upon it.
Yeah, there's also the idea that God already knows. He
already knows what you're going to do, so
he already knows what's going to happen, which suggests that the world is, in fact, predetermined.
Not free will, then.
Hang on, guys.
You don't have free will.
Julio wants to say something. Julio?
No, I was just agreeing with
Why?
I was agreeing with Hyatt, because that's what I've asked my youth pastor also, is that we believe we have free will, or God gave us free will, but at the same time God knows everything we're going to do before we think it, before we do it, before the idea ever comes to thought.
That doesn't necessarily say we don't have free will. If God knows it,
well, no, I was going to say this is actually this leads to the type of determinism I believe in, which is more of a compatibilist position, that essentially everything can be predetermined, but that does not deny the idea that we have free will.
But
yes.
Well, essentially, the question with free will is, do you control your own actions? And people will argue, well,
hey, welcome.
Due to everything that is and has come before,
open seat over here.
Or due to God, that ultimately you're going to choose this certain action. But if we look at it as just simply the laws of physics, you can't deny that you as an individual are part of this.
Right.
It's not that the laws of physics come from outside and force you to do something, but rather that you are also governed by the laws of physics.
You are the laws of physics, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, they're
the embodiments. No pun intended.
You're governed by them, essentially. But that doesn't mean it's not you.
Right.
Simply because you obey the laws of physics.
Yes.
In fact, it would be justifiable for the sake of argument to split it up as to this one section of the universe will isolate, which is an individual, right?
Yeah.
Now, all of his actions, yes, they're going to be affected by the outside universe, whatever stimulus he is subjected to, but ultimately they don't simply come from the outside universe. He has to process them and make decisions. You can't have an individual's actions without the individual.
But
it simply doesn't work without.
Okay. But what your brain processes information and it causes you to act a certain way. Don't you think that's already predetermined? You're already your brain is constantly firing neurons, and then certain neurotransmitters can make you feel certain ways. Don't you think that?
Yeah, I think that is predetermined, but it's essentially your identity is what this system of particles is that would isolate out your individual. That is you, and it is predetermined and ultimately predictable, but it's still you, and it still has an effect on the rest of the universe. It's still, your actions can't be separated from you.
So
That's hold up. That's why I feel free will. Whenever I think of free will, I think it's something that's why I bring in the religious point, that it's something given by someone else. It really
Right.
isn't something that comes from ourselves. You know what I mean?
Your characteristics are predetermined. Who you'll become is predetermined.
but
But
your choices are not.
Yeah,
No, your choices are predetermined. Is what I'm
Okay.
saying. But that doesn't. That's what I'm arguing is that doesn't mean they're not your choices.
Yeah, it doesn't mean
Okay, so
you're
there is-
absolved of
It's not so
responsibility.
much as free will, because let's
Well,
talk,
I would say that it is.
but then let's talk about the definition of free will, because
Brandon's like, no, that's what I just said.
I'm getting confused about what your definition of free will is. My
Mhm.
definition of free will is that the choices I make.
Control the outcome. Right.
No.
That your choices, you can make choices and you can change things.
Yeah, and the choices I want to say,
change things.
free will would be the choices I make are determined by my own thoughts and consciousness and intelligence and what knowledge I have at this moment about this particular matter.
But your knowledge
Is limited.
Well, what I was going to say is it's predetermined what you're going to learn by where
Yes.
you're born
But
and all the
that's
stimulus.
that's what I said.
It's something that is you have to be taught that knowledge essentially in some sense. Maybe you're not taught by a person. Maybe you're taught by circumstances. You learn from your surroundings, but you essentially have to be taught that knowledge. That's predetermined, but you're still making decisions based on your knowledge, based on your desires, and
I think I know what you're meaning here. I think I get it. Okay, let me give you an example of what I'm thinking right now. And I read it in a book that Professor Manzi gave to me. It's like this person gives it's basically determinism and free will, right? And he gives an example of an antique shop, right? And you have all these crazy stuff in it, all sorts of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And you just try to sell it to people, and by selling it to people, you're putting your opinion across, and you're showing that this thing was like hundreds of years old, and it's like this era, and this blah 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 blah, right? But it's not really, and it's not really because it's actually somebody's just gave it to you. You know, it's not your stuff. It's not actually real. It's not original. It's just something somebody gave to you. Basically, all your opinions are tainted by the opinion of somebody else, or every thought that comes into this world through your brain is a product of somebody else's thoughts or experiences.
mostly yes.
So basically, no matter what you put across, no matter what decisions you make, even if it is your decision, it's still going to be tainted with something else.
Hi, your microphone was off. Can you repeat all that?
Really?
No.
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 Okay.
Okay,
But
good.
it was well said.
That was very well said.
Um,
It was very well said.
Yeah, but the question is, does that mean they're not your opinions because you learned them?
But they're not, right?
They're not. They didn't.
They're
they didn't.
tainted by the thoughts of others.
They're influenced,
They're
yeah,
maybe
they're
not.
influenced.
They're
I
maybe
mean-
not original opinions.
But they can be original opinions. You know,
They're not-
you have these people. But like, I'm not saying that they cannot be an original opinion.
Let me
Actually, by definition, there had to be an original opinion.
No, they
we
had.
didn't
They
start
not
off with all the
anymore.
opinions.
Not anymore. Sure, like,
Maybe
but
not
like,
anymore.
because everybody's influenced by everything around them, society, experiences, people. Right? Even if you lived isolated from everybody
Society
else,
changes, though.
society changes.
there
Yes,
are very much
but you
new
can't,
ideas.
At this point,
But they come from other ideas.
yes, they are birthed and evolved from other ideas. You cannot have an idea that's completely new.
All right, let me just interrupt just for a minute here because we are running out of time. We got to make sure we have time for plugs as well. But I want to go back to something that y'all were talking about earlier, namely the religious aspect of things. Now, first of all, I recommend a particular book. It's called The Consolation of Philosophy. It's written by a medieval philosopher named Boethius. And Boethius, it's a dialogue where a person talks with LP, Lady Philosophy manifested as a woman. And he has this question about, God's divine foreknowledge versus human free will. And the way that he resolves this question of how can we be free and God be all-knowing is the following. He says it has to do with the existence of time and exactly what time is. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but you might find this response somewhat fascinating. Essentially, God exists in a way that transcends time.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how God is omnipresent and God is everywhere because God is nowhere, because God transcends time and space and what have you. So God can know everything in such a way that, again, if there's nothing but time, then he knows it all immediately, already, always has, and always will. Because to him, time is like one tiny little point. It's not even that. But for human beings whose souls are sort of stretched between, the past and the future, time to us, that one moment that has everything, it becomes distilled into a clear past, a clear present, a clear future. So we are living through our human experience and truly making decisions that we don't know the outcome of, and so therefore we are free, and our experience is one of freedom. But God is also all-knowing because he doesn't exist in this past, present, future format. He transcends all of that.
Yeah.
And so this idea of free will, and I wish Andrew were here because I have some questions about what he said, but from my understanding, and I get this from St. Augustine, people are born evil. That's what inherited sin is. You're born a little demon baby, and that's why you have to get baptized as soon as possible. You have to start the cleansing process. Yeah, and Augustine goes on, and it's even
Drown them all.
It's funny how he puts it. But the point is this: your free will, and I brought this up in the meeting on Tuesday. Free will and freedom aren't the same thing. Free will is a distinctly Christian term that comes about because Christianity preaches that we have inherited sin. We are post-lapsarian. We're fallen. And so our free will is really our freedom to either accept or reject God's grace. That's what free will means. But what's been predetermined is that you're going to need God's grace because of what happened in the garden. That's where free will, that's what it means. Freedom is something different. Freedom doesn't necessarily have that Judeo-Christian connotation. Freedom, in our sense, the way we've been talking about it, means, again, depending on how radical you expect to be, there's absolutely nothing determining you except for you. You are 100% self-determined. This is kind of what existentialism argues, depending on which author you're looking at whom you're looking. Grammar. Don't end a sentence on a preposition, children. So yeah, I think that might help us better understand the conditions for the possibility of determinism. Well, if you want to put it in a religious context, it's determined because there are different levels of reality. You have this discursive level of reality, and then you have reality that is it's almost beyond reality. It's pure. I mean, it's God. But if you don't want to subscribe to that, then all you have are the physical world, and thereby, as Braden has made a great point of saying, everything in the physical world is restricted, is determined by physical laws, including human beings. And I don't think you can argue against that. I could try to practice flying by jumping off my roof 45 times. I'm not going to get any better at it because I can't. It's not something you can change. It's immutable. It's a law of physics. Physics, the word comes from the Greek word physis, which means unchanging, nature, like your nature, something that cannot be changed, that cannot be, altered or revised. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Was that
Perfect
helpful?
sense, yeah.
Okay, cool. We only got a few minutes left. Do you guys have any responses to that? Does that sound like something you can get behind, or is that still something that's a little fishy?
I think I just have to read the dialogue.
Boethius. It's a quick read. It's a little
what was
dialogue.
it called again?
It's called I have it in my office. I'll let you borrow it.
Okay.
It's the Consolation of Philosophy. Yeah, I've read it a few times.
I'm gonna have to finish reading the book you gave me and then borrow that one.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
I need some books too, guys.
Come to my
Recommend
office.
me some books.
I'd be happy to. You can borrow mine, my personal
That's
copies.
A lot of books.
You do? Okay.
I do have a lot of books. Say that to the mic, Julio. I want the audience to know that.
Manzi has a lot of books.
That's
I
right.
just said it.
Not loudly enough. All right, so I guess we should wrap up. We got 6-7 minutes left. What did we decide on next week's topic?
Yeah, it was.
before I forget.
The nature of evil.
Oh, that's right. We're doing evil. Oh yeah, how about that?
Which
Yeah.
would be a very good precursor. I mean, this is a good precursor topic.
Kai's so funny though. He didn't want to do. He wanted to do less metaphysically oriented topics,
But
and we've done determinism and evil,
But determinism. No, what we meant by metaphysical topics was like
time,
we were going for what is time and stuff.
which
like
is what I
that.
literally just talked about on this podcast.
Well, but it's essentially unknowable.
Yeah, it's just very mind-boggling.
You can't really make much of an argument either way. It's all
Yeah.
it's all just
too much out in the air, I'd say.
it's just trying to understand what it is. Yeah, and it's tough to formulate opinion on something you're still trying to grasp. I totally understand.
It's all just supposition. It's just people people just say this is what time is,
Yeah.
and there's no way of discerning. There's no
154.
there's no test. Is this the way? Is this the way that time works? There's no logic behind it. It's just a theory.
Yeah,
People just list theories.
it really
Yeah.
sucks. I didn't really like that topic.
Yeah. Well, we can stop bashing. Who came up with the time topic?
John.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he's
Shout out
gone.
John
We can
Starling.
bash
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, let's bash John. No, he was a good. He had a good mind. Said.
Good mind.
Said.
Set.
I love that you had to have a correction there. He's a good mind. Well, good mindset.
Mindset. Just give it a little pause.
A stew don't. Am I right, folks? Well, okay, guys. Did I read the disclaimer? Yeah, I read the disclaimer. Okay, jeez. We'd have to scrap the episode. Any final thoughts then on determinism and freedom or free will? Put it to you this way: you don't have to believe in any sort of religion or any god to still be subject to the laws of physics, to the laws of nature. This is why you can be calculated or calculable, calculatable, I should say.
Predictable.
Yeah, predictable. That's basically what it is. I mean, look, psychology, there's a movement in psychology called behaviorism. You're trying to predict behavior. Can you determine how somebody will react? And that person thinks he or she's making choices, but really they're just responding to these more subconscious impulses that are determining their behavior. Is that real freedom? I don't know about that. It's more Pavlovian maybe than anything else. All right, so any other final thoughts?
No, I just had a wonderful thought, but that's another topic.
No, let me hear it.
No, it was.
Be so withholding.
What was what Braden said earlier about the machine of like having a computer or something that could predict everything we do, everything in the universe, and it's physically impossible to have something like that because it would have to be infinitely.
Yeah, it would have to be able to calculate itself, which means and everything else.
Yeah,
so
but
it would need to be able to calculate essentially a system larger than itself, which would mean it could calculate something that could calculate something larger, and it would have infinite power,
I
infinite
like how you
processing.
burped into the mic.
Appreciate
It was beautiful.
That was no, that wasn't me. That was Julio.
But it's impossible for us to have it. But that's not to say that
This mic's gonna
there
smell
is
now.
a computer machine that's calculating what we're doing right now. But it's existing beyond us, beyond
in the
our
Matrix?
capabilities. Yeah, but we could theoretically, we could be able to create a machine like that, but just
Mr. Anderson.
smaller universe.
Basically, we don't know anything about.
Yeah.
We don't.
I just had a thought. I can't put it.
No, yeah. That's basically what it boils down to. Like what we know about physics now really doesn't explain everything.
We don't really know.
Well-
We think we know everything about
Yeah.
physics, but there's a lot for us
Yeah.
to actually.
Yeah, that's true. But it does suggest
Susan boils down
It does
to.
suggest predictability.
It's possible. Yeah.
If not, well, not even possible,
but
but
it's
that
there.
all things act in a predictable way, though it's an impossibly complex system that can't be calculated.
Yeah, and here's just my personal response to this. I delivered a public lecture last semester called oh God, what did I call it? There's a poster of it on my door.
Philosophy.
Oh yeah, that's what it. No, it was it was on determinism in some sense. It was more on absolute knowing. So yeah, the surd of absolute knowledge, which is another way of saying that if you argue, as postmodern philosophers do, some of these existentialists do, if you argue that the ontology of a human being is tied into the human's freedom. So, what makes a human being is that human being is free, completely and radically free relative to each individual person. And so by that very definition, it's impossible to have absolute knowledge of everything because you can't. Because it's going to come down to complete and utter the exercise of an individual's freedom within the greater facticity, the greater context of his life. You can't predict that. That's what makes a human being is that you cannot predict. I mean, this is why you can't even give general descriptions, general prescriptions for how somebody ought to live, because that would be to impinge upon the freedom that is the very essence of that human being. So, yeah, determinism for a lot of postmodern thinkers is it's wiggity whack.
I don't necessarily
Whackity
think
whack.
you can't prescribe a way for people to live merely as in it's impossible, but that we lack that capability. Right?
Yeah.
We lack the understanding to
Absolute knowing, yeah.
tell people how to live their lives. It's not to say that there's not a right way that could ultimately be found, but that it's
can't
beyond it's beyond the capabilities of humans.
And I think, yeah, and that's helpful.
Answer.
That's very helpful. I also think that ultimately for the existentialists at least, the idea is this: they have the answer to how every human being should live. You should live in accordance with how you want to live, which by that very definition is both the universal response and also nothing that can be actually tangibly quantified.
It kind of gets some people in trouble, though, doesn't it?
Like whom? Me?
People who make bad decisions. I'm just saying.
Yeah, me. No. Yeah, I think so. Well, it makes them take responsibility for their actions. Getting back to the original bone of contention here, you are 100% responsible for everything that happens to you in your life.
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay. So let's go around the room and any plugs, anything you guys want to promote or push, any upcoming events?
Yes, I have one. There's election awareness event coming up next week, 25th, 26th. 25th, we'll have voter registrar tables all across campus. And 26th, we have also voter registrar tables. A lot of organizations coming up. We'll have a giveaway placed for students and slushies and also a electoral ballot straight from the government and just to show students how easy it is to vote.
When is it?
Tomorrow, 25th, 26th. 26th, the actual main event. So it'll be from 10 to 2.
This
in El
month?
Paso, yeah. This next week.
Next week.
Yep, Wednesday and Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Great. Do you want to say anything for Alice or Alas or
Look at Uche.
who's this guy?
He's definitely
Dead man walking.
That's my twin. If
The
you remember,
prodigal
I'm
son?
Uche.
The prodigal son
The,
returned.
the prodigal son. That'll be John Stallings one day, I think.
Yeah, one day. Gosh, if he comes back, I doubt he even remembers where
It's
the
gonna be like he's gonna do introductions and then we're gonna leave.
No,
Last I heard, he's
They're like,
trying to
hi,
go to
I'm
Hawaii.
Uche.
Huh?
Bye, everyone.
what is he doing?
He's trying to go to Hawaii, I think.
Oh, yeah.
To live with his uncle or something. Hey, what's up, Uche? Anyways, yeah, I got some plugs too. Unless Julio, do you have anything for?
Am I late?
No, you're like.
You're right when we wanted you to get here.
The prodigal son.
No, you're good. Go for it. This is your opportunity.
The only thing is,
Eat that mic.
we have a meeting Monday in Del Rio. I think it's 117. It's that big room in Del Rio, right by the entrance. We'll be having elections for officers,
Oh wow.
as well as just games, just to hang out and have fun.
Mm.
And other than that,
What is
that's
that?
about it.
You should be in sales, Julio. What does ALICE stand for?
Alice is Achieving Latino Academic Success.
Okay,
You don't
cool.
have to be Latino to join. It doesn't matter what you are. You can be. You could be a god and join.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. So check that out. That's a fantastic club. Their faculty advisor is just an amazing person. They do a lot. They're movers and shakers on this campus. I got some few things, speaking of that I want to plug for the Philosophy Club in particular, and it is as follows. On actually, you know what? Before that, right at 2:30, so half an hour after this radio show ends, well, now 25 minutes, the Honor Student Organization is having its first General Assembly meeting. It's taking place in Crockett 246. If you are in the Honors program, come by. It's going to be food and just a lot of hanging out. It's going to be fun. Meet your fellow Honors program colleagues, or if you're interested in joining the Honors program, you want to know what it's about or what the deal with it is, come join. Come be a part of it. So there's that. Also, well, I'll say this, guys. I'll advertise this, and I'm glad y'all are here. I'm taking the Office of Student Life Risk Management training Tuesday from 10 to 11 a.m. Yeah, so select officers, a couple of officers and the faculty advisor of each club have to participate in these things. I think Gabby already did it for us and a bunch of other things.
Which is like, thank God I left.
Yeah, I know, right? Which is like, oh, man. Hi, did you do this? Did you have to do
No.
this for SGA?
Student government doesn't have to do it because OSL doesn't care. No, I'm just joking. OSL. No.
That was totally a
you're,
diss,
you're
dude.
their boss, right?
No. OSL does care. It's just that they all retain us for these things, so we don't really have to.
Well, I'll be sure to bring that up with Student Life.
No, please don't.
Remind them, they'll make her do it.
But keep that in mind. It's from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. I think right over here. But some more specifically philosophy shout-outs. Well, on the 26th of September, that's a Wednesday, I'm kicking off my Phenomenology Workshop Series. Phenomenology of Feeling. I did it over the summer, maxed out at like 25 students. It was a lot of fun. Phenomenology of, I'm sorry, let's say feeling? Phenomenology of listening will be the first one. So what you're doing...
What's that? I wasn't listening.
Yeah. Hopefully you weren't listening to that last one. So it's fun. It's going to be an interactive, immersive experience.
When is it again?
It's going to be 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock on Wednesday, September 26th.
You're not practicing the phenomenology of listening. He's said what?
Right after the election awareness day.
Yeah. So it's going to be, I'll be giving you different things to listen
Where is
to.
it?
It's in, thank you. It's in the Learning Center. It's in Medina. So if you, these things are called Learning Connections workshops. So if you go to the Learning Center's website through Richland, and you can find all the workshops that are being offered. I'm offering one again in October and again in November. I'll say more about those when we get closer to it, but there's that. And then the day after that phenomenology workshop, pay attention, y'all. September 27th is Fresh Check Day.
Yes,
The Stop and Chill booth.
Mikey.
That's us. So we'll be doing that a week from tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for that. There'll be a lot of advertisements for that. I think Alice, ALAS, I think they have a booth there. I believe the Psy Ducks will be representing a booth as well.
Braden has a question.
No, I was just gonna see because I thought Manzi was gonna plug last, so I was gonna try to cut him first.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you, well,
I was gonna.
yeah, please go for it.
'Cause I figured you wanted to end it. I was gonna say, can I plug the debate club?
Yeah,
We're trying
please.
to have our first meet again. Apparently, we think nobody knew where the room was the last time because it was. Yeah, we got the room late. Basically, me and Brian showed up because no one else knew where the room was.
Oh, that's
so. We're hoping to get people to figure out where.
Whether
What
Where
day
the room
though?
is? Where is the room?
What day?
I think it's still gonna be EO 36 on Thursdays
We're so
from
good at
1 to
plugs.
2.
Yeah, I can't
Alright.
do Thursdays. That's one less person.
That's one less person because I'll be in class.
Thanks for coming in.
Well,
Can you do Tuesday 1 to 2, or no?
Can't be here.
Can we have this meeting some other time, folks?
Okay.
But
one last plug.
Let the audience know what you just said. Like, what is the official time and place?
it should be 1 to 2 at EO 36
On Thursdays?
On Thursdays.
Guys, the debate club is awesome. If you go to richlandstudentmedia.com, you could see videos of previous debates. You can see what it's all about. You
They're
can
really
see,
great.
Yeah, they're great debates.
Yes, you
No
can
debate about that, folks.
You can see Brian, our president of the debate club,
Don't
debating
say it.
about gun control with the president of Turning Point USA.
Yes, and then Wednesday,
Andrew
October
Castillo.
October
Castillo.
3rd, October 3rd is the first installment in the film series, Philosophy and Film. It's a collaboration with the International Film Series. It's happening in Crockett Room 249 at 4 p.m. We're watching Wild Strawberries. It's going to be wild. It's an intense movie. It's an emotionally intense movie. And it's again, it's not rated, so the content is going to be for adults. To be sure, but again, it's a fantastic film. It's by Ingmar Bergman. He's considered to be one of the greatest filmmakers in the history of cinema. So come check it out. It's no joke. It's a fantastic movie. I can't believe we can afford it to get the rights. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, should we tentatively announce this? The Philosophy Club will be having a fundraiser. It's going to be the Monday after Thanksgiving break. I think we're going to be selling kolaches and coffee and orange juice, something along those lines, to get you back in the mood, back in the New York groove. Shout out Kiss. Any fans? Okay, you guys suck. I'm back in the New York groove. Can we isolate that, Jack? So
all our subscribers.
Prepare
All
for.
of them, just at once. Gone. Done.
And that's all I'll say for now. We got a lot of other things in the works, including the Philosophy and Religion lecture series is coming back. We got some people were booked. We got the Shapeshifters coming in. We're not going to go through that again.
What?
But they're coming in.
What is shapeshifters?
That's the question that everyone asks.
Watch
We never get
the
any
season
Hey,
premiere.
next philosophy club meeting. What's the shapeshifter?
I was like, talking about Miss
That could
Marvel
be our
for a second.
topic.
We never get the answer. It's gonna
I
be
thought you were
like
talking
It's
about
gonna be
Invasion.
like most of our discussions where we never reach a concrete answer. We'll be like, what are they exactly at the end?
You got everybody's gonna show up for their guest lecture. It's just gonna be me and like a mustache. I'll be like, I'm the Shapeshifters.
Welcome, guys.
No, they're two retired professors from Pima College, and
Are
one's
there shapeshifters?
one's philosophy, one's physics, and they've founded this little corporation of sorts. I don't know if you can call it a corporation, something like that. It's an LLC, and it's what they do is they focus on the integration of the various disciplines. So there are things that humanities can offer a natural science or a STEM thing that makes the STEM approach itself better, more well-rounded, richer, enriched. And similarly, the STEM sciences can help the humanities. So it's about putting these two major approaches to investigating or exploring the world in dialogue with one another. Yeah, pretty good. I hope everybody heard that. I think my volume was down. I think the calendar knocked the switch down.
You
Sorry,
can
Jack.
hear it fine.
Okay, good. Well, now hear this. You are listening to KDUX Web Radio, broadcast live from Richland College in Dallas, Texas. We are the voice of Richland College. This is Season 5. I still can barely just barely operate the soundboard. Views expressed on this show are we'll say High Zone unless otherwise stated, Julio Zone unless otherwise stated, and do not reflect the opinion of KDUX Web Radio, Richland College, or the DCCCD, CCCCD.
Drop the bass.
All right, guys, don't forget to think about it.
Think about it.
Think about
Ponder
it.
a little.